Recording, and you can start the introduction.
Okay, and then Raj, you stop the recording today. We'll go through that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, good evening, everybody. Raj and Jean are here tonight, and we have a special guest we'll introduce in just a moment. Before we start, though, what we'd like to do is real quickly review what we went over last Sunday. The idea, the points to help us help you get credit. And oops, I'm going ahead too far. Okay, let me go back to the previous. Please do make sure that you do these. This way, the report will have you as attentive and for the full time. And, we'll make sure that that email gets sent into Demita at the TRC so you get credit. Number one, make sure your screen is fully open. As we scroll down the list, we only have one or two people whose screens are not fully open. And sometimes, the report will count you as not attentive if it's not fully open. So if you would, please make sure that you click on that little square up there to make sure that the browser is filling up the screen and that you're fully opened, okay? And I see one person only right now who's not fully attentive. So thank you for that. Now, the second thing is 1 hour after the webinar, you're going to receive a thank you email, and you don't have to stay up and wait for it. Within a couple of days, please click on that email, open it up. Inside there is a link down at the bottom left in the blue. And if you'll click on that and complete the very short survey that we have in there, it helps us out, and it will also, make sure that, we can make sure that you are attentive and get full credit. The last thing, if I could, is we're going to ask you to add a comment on the Sunday night webinar blog. We've started this last Sunday, and if you have not done that before, it's maybe not the easiest thing in the world, but it ranks up there with it. Go to the webinar registration page on the Teacher Resource Center site. At the bottom, you'll find the blog. Read the prompt and click on comment. Well, should we show them? Yes. Okay.
Because I did check. It's there for tonight.
Oh, it is? Okay. Let me end the show here, and I think I can go right here.
End that show. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that particular. Oh, no, not the webinar. Okay. Here is where most of you registered for the webinar tonight. And if you go to the bottom, maybe I need to refresh because I have the same old one. Okay. I'm getting a same one, Raj. I'm not getting the fresh one.
Well, I am all set.
Okay, but anyhow, let's put it this way. There will be a comment right here, or a prompt right here. And Raj, why don't you tell us what it says?
Oh, it's very simple. It asks whether or not you have any specific questions for tonight's. I'm going to go into see that we have a recent, and there will be. You know what? It too disappeared. Actually, questions of Ray at the end of tonight after Ray's talked to us a bit. There is a place to post a comment, a specific question for Ray tonight.
And to do that,
while you're doing this, I say it was there, and now I'm looking to see.
Okay. We'll make sure it's there. But anyhow, to do that, all you need to do is see the blue comment. Just click on that. A new window will open, and you'll see the comments that have been posted before. You'll notice that my comment has my name on it. That's because I was logged in to the school district website. Most of your comments will appear anonymously, okay? So again, we're not trying to, point you out or anything like that, but we would really appreciate you going in, write your comment here, and click on comment. Now, what's nice about this and what you might want to consider it for, as we've said last week and we'll say again this week, this is a blog that you can put on your teacher website. And what is the best thing about it is it's moderated. In other words, none of these comments will appear on the site until you go in and approve them. If you make a comment tonight after the show, they will not appear immediately. Roger or I will have to go in, check out the comment, click on OK, and then they will appear. Just as you would do as if you set one up for your class. And if you are interested in setting one up for your class, would be, glad to really help, really glad to help you out doing this. And with that, Roger's going to make sure that that's all set up. I see a question there already. I don't know if it's a question. Do we have to comment on the Bing? I didn't do it last week. No, I will forgive you. We'll forgive you. Okay. We would like you to make a comment on the blog. Please do. It's a learning thing. But
and feel free to leave your name. You don't have to be.
If you want to feel. Yeah, you could put your name in the comment thing if you want. And it's like I say, that one is probably more optional than we really would like the survey from the thank you, and we get the report from the company that we use for the webinar. But this one, yeah, we'd just like you to learn to use a blog, and in that way, you might want to say, hey, this is cool. I might want to use it in my classroom. And that's kind of one of the things that we're pushing on that. So thank you, Shannon, for asking, but no, we wouldn't do that to you. No, we're not nasty. Are we, Raj? Okay. Hey, tonight, our guest tonight is Mr. Ray Granieri. And let me pop this up as the slide. And Mr. Granieri is the new administrator for information services, and he's taken the place of Darlene Sprague, who has retired. And I looked all over for a proper image for information services, and this is the best I could find. And one of the nice things, I just want to throw this in, you'll notice this little caption down below. This photo by unknown author is licensed under. We try to encourage teachers that when they're using technology and their students are using technology, especially when they're going out looking for images and so forth, to make sure that they obey copyright rules and so forth. One nice thing about the Office 365 products is if you insert an image, just as I did here, and you use Bing, which is built into PowerPoint and Word and the others, it will bring back common. They're allowed the Creative Commons license, so it is perfectly okay. So just wanted to throw that in too. And with that, Mr. Granieri's with us, and we're going to invite him to take over. And I was just trying to kill a minute or two, letting the last few people sneak in. And so, Mr. Granieri, if you're ready, we're glad to have you with us tonight.
Yes, sure am. Thank you very much, Gene. I want to thank you and Roger for inviting me this evening to talk a little bit. This is the first time I've done this kind of thing, so it's kind of exciting for me to share some information. I do have a couple topics. I'd like to start off with possibly the future direction or the status of the Information Services Department. And, we've been talking a little bit, the group here, the Information Services, and kind of reading in general. And I hate to jinx myself, but things I've been reading and seeing is that in the industry, we may be approaching a time of platform stability and maturity. And what that really brings us is so much easier to get things done, to get interventions done, to try to enhance systems when they are mature, they're stable, and they've been around a few years. And in my time in the district, we've been in this situation once or twice, and we've also had a few transformations. I don't know how many people are out there this evening that remember the AS400, the old green screen systems we used to have. That was around for a long time, way before my time, and it was an integrated system that fed and fueled most processing that went through the district. And because it was around and stable, here in the district, we were able to do a lot of interventions that we're really proud of. We were doing online grading. I don't know if anyone ever remembers Chicago, but we were doing online grading before anyone else was doing online grading. We did electronic New York State reporting. Teachers didn't see those green or pink bubble sheets and all sorts of things for years before that became what it is today. And the data warehousing system was fantastic. It was live real-time data that fed principals information, and it was fantastic. So we were in the environment for a while. At some point, I kind of point to Y2K and maybe some other concerns that the industry and people in general kind of went away from the AS400 and more to client server and out of the box. I'm doing my finger quotes right now. And these are basically independent systems that perform usually just one thing. They did finance, and they did school systems, and they did IEPs, and they did health things, and they were separate and independent, and they did a pretty decent job of what they were doing, what they needed to do, but in general they were just kind of isolated in their own world. So our job changed here in information services for the school district, where you had to try to make all that data talk. We had to build all these servers to run this type of software, and these solutions still exist, but they were just kind of rigid. So the next kind of transformation that the industry and we in the district went to was kind of web-enabled type machines. These weren't true HTML or web-based systems. They were enabled. So behind it was maybe an AS400, maybe a client-based piece of software, but it was actually on the internet, and that's what people wanted to see. And the move then turned into pure web-based systems. That's where you're actually running software and database systems that were designed for web-based stuff. And we probably saw that at its biggest level with PowerSchool. When we started to come into PowerSchool, that's where we saw, that platform at that level. And the good thing is, since PowerSchool, including PowerSchool and some other things, we're starting now to see the stability of these systems, even in New York State, reported than we have to do because it's been around a while, and some of the tools are a little more native to that platform. We're seeing, all sorts of laptops through the district now for students, because all classroom systems coming off the web now. The flexibility in these systems is getting better. Again, I'm using the word maturity, but that's really what it was. It's just getting better. And I'm hoping that it allows us to concentrate, us being the information services department, to really start focusing more on enhancing systems and some of the other things to support it. The software just runs a little bit better. So that's our hope, at least. Now I turn kind of to the thought of, how do we manage or evaluate future IS activities? When we have these systems or processes come in, how are we going to kind of manage it? And I consider myself very lucky because I've been here 19 years with the district, and I've worked with most people at least 19 years, and a lot of people have stayed along, so it's really a fantastic group. I never would have thought about applying for this position or continuing my career if I didn't have such a good working relationship and a lot of confidence with the IS team here. So they're my first go-to. We talk all the time. We have kind of formal meetings. We have kind of talks in between. And, there's not a lot of school districts around, I don't think, that have programming staffs in place. And that was one of the reasons that attracted me. I spent 10 years working for the City of Niagara Falls IT department. And, I was pretty happy there. But when I saw this opportunity, I was a friend with Guy Rizzuto. I used to teach tennis with his kids, and just the direction they were going, and that they had a full-time IT staff really was attractive, because it told me the school district really thought highly of what technology can do and wanted people, I'll say, under their thumb so they can provide the direction they wanted. So I feel very lucky to have such a strong group to work with to try to manage and plan for future activities. That's for sure. And I can also tell you, since I started for 2 months or so now, there is no lack of outside sources of people that want to give me suggestions on how to run or buy technology. And the hot topic today is single server logons. And this has been an issue since I first started working with technology. Even in the old green screen environment, it's just all these passwords and all these logons. And we're starting a little bit of it now. And again, it's starting. That's my word, maturity. It's starting to show a little maturity. So we're hoping that kind of takes off to alleviate some of the concerns of, having lots of logons and passwords and that kind of grief. But that's certainly a resource, outside sources, whether it's email, forums, telephone calls, literature, there's all sorts of other things to kind of help guide or at least provide suggestions on what to do for the future. Another group that I feel strongly about within the district, and I actually, in my interview process, I talked in the first 2 interview processes and I actually spoke to the board about it, is the technology committee that sits within the district. Darlene has done, I've been on the technology committee on and off, whole 19 years I've been here, and I just think it's a fantastic group. It's comprised of a bunch of different people, employees. You have principals, you got vice principals, TSAs, the temp group. Roger's there almost every time. Our BOCES consultants are there. We have community involvement, key central office people are involved, and the one area that we've used in the past, but I'm going to try to use even more, is to, and I spoke to the superintendent a little bit about it, is to use special guests and teachers. We have a lot of hot topics coming up this year, and after a couple of minutes, I kind of want to touch on some of the things that we're going to be looking at this year. I really would like to bring in specialists or people that are influenced by the decisions we're making. An example I can give you is technology makes a lot of decisions about classroom software. And we have Melissa Cacciatore in the NIAS group here. That's a big part of her job, is managing all this classroom software. So I value her experience and also what she could bring to the committee. So she's going to come on board when we start talking about our technology plan and technology is going to hit the classroom. I also am hoping that we can get teachers, people that are in the, in the trenches. I'm married to a teacher. I have a great appreciation for teachers. I go to open houses. I go to parent-teacher conferences, but I never was a teacher. I never was in the classroom. So I don't know the challenges they face. I don't know, have ideas for platforms and things like that, but I really value the opinion of the people that are using the software, what they think about when we talk about the technology plan that we have to forecast out what we're going to do for the next 3 years. So, I value the technology committee. I always have. I'm hoping to bring in, special guest experts to help us kind of get through the year, to help us select how we're going to move forward, how to make things better. And, again, when I look at that group, of all those people, all those titles I just kind of mentioned, that's a group that you're going to get fantastic input from, and it's going to, they can help get things done, and they can also bring concerns to the table. So I'm really excited about using that group and moving forward with them. So that's kind of little notes that I kind of jotted down when I was walking the gorge today with my dog, and about direction, and I hope that kind of made some sense. I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes now talking about some of the things that we're looking at this school year, maybe some things we started at the end of the school year, and kind of look into the future a little bit. I'm going to start with more of the classroom-based stuff or instructional-based stuff, but I do have a little list that includes some other things. So let me start just kind of with the classroom things. Something we talked about last year actually in technology, and I started to learn a little bit more about it. It's New York Learns. It's curriculum sophomore and curriculum software. Rick Corella was good enough to kind of talk to me about this a little bit, and what his thinking is, and what it boils down to. We're paying a significant amount of money for this learning management system, but the fact of the matter is, and for a lot of reasons, not New York Learns' fault, but we're only using a small fraction of what the system can do. And one of the main reasons, I guess, this is the case, is that it's kind of a proprietary system. They want us to use their stuff. So, we have very good stuff within the district, but they really want us to use what they're doing. It's a great business decision on their part, but it's not necessarily what we're looking for. So that's kind of hinders a little bit. So that's one of the things that's definitely a technology committee topic. We've already identified ITS Learning that might be a replacement, but I certainly want to bring in New York Learns in and have them show us their system, and and not give them another chance, but just kind of see what they have to offer. And so it's going to be kind of an interesting selection and potential replacement. Another piece of software that we're using, it's the assessment software. Some people may know it by TestWiz. I think it was purchased by Certica Solutions now. And I have to tell you, that really got us out of a jam when we first started with Power School. They are an old throwback customer service company that they just do that part real well. The piece that they don't necessarily, it's something you have to do with technology because technology just changes, is they haven't really done anything with their software. It's a great, grindy piece of software. It does great assessment information. It can churn data. It performs very well, behind the scenes. But the piece that it's missing is how it is presented to the user. I mean, they don't even have a dashboard, although we've asked for it. And the reporting system makes me think it's almost a web-enabled system, because the tools, you can kind of tell, are a little older. So we've reached out to them. I personally hope they respond, because I just really like the company. I like the employees, and we have a great working relationship with the assessment office with them. So we're going to kind of see. But I know Marcia is looking around, because we have to move forward. We don't want to be on the bleeding edge of technology, but we certainly, you have to move forward. So that's another piece of classroom software we're going to kind of be looking at. And the other piece, I kind of mentioned the classroom software. That's technology committee in general. I'm talking about just classroom software. We are churning all year long on different committees. The committee members bring all sorts of suggestions for different kinds of classroom software. Too many to list, but that's always evolving. And I think we do a pretty decent job at looking at that kind of stuff. I know the big thing that we're looking at this year is computer-based testing. I believe it's for ELA in third grade we're focusing. Marcy and I are already scheduled to go to a meeting later in the month to start gathering some information for that. So, that's a pretty exciting intervention that we're going to be started. A few other. We're hoping to use some nice little funds to kind of upgrade some media center and AV hardware that can affect the classroom. We just have to be very careful that we use these funds appropriately, because it's all classroom-based stuff. So we're hoping we have some money in place. We've got some good ideas from the media group and the AV guys, and so we're hoping that kind of takes off. Smart schools is very interesting. I actually was reading about that a little bit today, just to try to get a little bit better understanding of what that is. First round, there was this big purchase was laptops for the schools, which keeps us quite busy for sure. The second part, or second phase, I guess, is going to address a lot of school district safety issues, visitor center, practice card system, which we really are looking forward to, and a lot of security type stuff. So that's kind of the focus at it. But we're hoping once bids come in, we're cautiously optimistic that there's going to be some money left over that we can address some laptop computer issues. Not really issues, we shouldn't say. We have some older technology at Maple and Mann, and potentially Abbott. So we're really hoping that there's some money left over that we can buy some hardware. Office 365 is another one that there really has a ton of potential, and I know I'm excited about it. We have some growing pains that we're going through. Last year, the classroom piece was in beta mode. I think Microsoft, and it's in its fashion of letting the users be the R&D department. That was certainly true with this. We definitely last year had some issues with just the classroom piece of it, but we worked our way through that. They ended up changing some things this year, so I don't think it's called Classrooms. I want to say it's called Teams or something like that. So we're hoping that continues involved, because we're partnering with Microsoft. It is a great collaborative tool that really shows a lot of potential, but it's something that I think is going to take a little time. Let me look here. E-rate funds, that's another funding package we have that this is not going to be tomorrow, but hopefully next year we have a wonderful opportunity to upgrade our wireless system, replacing all those little blue lights in the sky there in the classrooms and on the walls in the district, just to make it just fundamentally more reliable and better. So that's a little bit down the road, but we're hoping for that. We are doing a Power School upgrade. Tom Friedhoff's arranging that now, because we're version 2 behind, which we're okay with, because we always like to have versions settle a little bit before we jump into it. But we're going to do that in the next couple of weeks. Inherent to that is there is a new grade book. which I am not suggesting, and let me clarify, we're not moving to a new grade book, but there's been a trend in the industry across the board of trying to alleviate or eliminate Java or ActiveX controls because they can be kind of a hotbed or hosting spot for a lot of bad stuff and viruses. So the industry is kind of getting away from that stuff, and that's where the old grade book has some that kind of software embedded. So they created a new grade book that doesn't have that kind of. So it's, you know, it's good they did that, but what we might do this year is towards the end of the year, we may see, the good thing about it is you can actually pilot this new grade book to a class or even down to a section. So we're gonna probably later in the year see if we can recruit some teachers that might be interested in piloting this for us. The reviews are good. We haven't seen it yet, but we get all the promises that it's a good tool. So that's something we certainly have to look into. So
we have a couple questions, Ray.
Yeah.
If you have for a second here.
Yeah, sure.
It has to do with exactly what you're talking about. But will there be ways to integrate any non-Pearson products through PowerSchool? Because now they can do a single sign-on, I guess.
Yes, yeah, and we kind of tested the waters a little bit with a Pearson Realize tool that's being used. It's actually being launched out of the parent portal. So that's kind of an example, and I can tell you when we first started working with Pearson, they gave us a couple different options of how we'd want to. They call it Pearson Easy Bridge, and it launches the Realize program. And the first model they gave us, Raj, was it kind of reminded me a little bit about what I was saying with NY New York Learns, is that they really wanted to take over. They had their version of a single server logon, and they wanted it to us to go through Pearson, which again is a great business issue, I think, because what are you going to launch off that Pearson portal is going to be Pearson products. Right. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit because, oh my gosh, you should have seen the setup requirements. Melissa and I were working on it, and we went to a meeting, and it required 14 different nightly downloads from PowerSchool per school, and then some technical requirements after that in order to kind of enable this product. So, my suggestion to them was, you got to remember your customer, and that you have to make this a little bit easier if you're looking for people to join your single server portal. So we decided to take another option, which was to go through PowerSchool. So students are actually logging on to the Easy Bridge via the parent portal using their network login credentials. So we're starting to see a little bit of it, and it's a big battle in the industry, is a single server logon, because number one, it's a great tool. It's going to eliminate a pain in the neck for a lot of people, and secondary, it's a way to acquire business. So that'll be interesting to see how that evolves. Yeah, hope that answers the question.
I guess we'll see.
Right. Yes.
With what's coming up.
Yeah.
And it varies through the grade levels, certainly, with kids needing to, it's a whole classroom management piece that teachers have to deal with, and of course, a single server login, takes over that piece. But again, I can see the concern. Okay, well, what about the rest of the world? What about the other, pretty valuable products out there, software, websites, and so on? About a year ago, the district was looking at something called Clever as a single server sign-on service, somewhat similar to what we're attempting to do through Symbaloo.
Right, and you know what, we are actually using Clever behind the scenes, because what we didn't really use it too much last year, but we're using it much more this year. And what service that is providing us is rostering. And what I mean by that is we're using Clever to, I can give you the example for. Well, let me give you an example for assessment, let's say, although we're not using it. It's probably the easiest one to try to explain. When you're taking a local exam, you have to have bubble sheets that are reflective of your class that you're testing. So we have to roster, and that's true with all sorts of these classroom type software tools. So what Clever's doing for us, is they're providing the rostering for a majority of the pieces of software they're using that are requiring rostering information.
Now, when
And
you
it does
say rostering, you're talking classroom population of students.
Yes, if you're a teacher at Gaskill and you have 5 sections of English and you need those to be within the software you're using, they will roster those 5 sections of the kids that are in there for you.
All done behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that's been the purpose of Clever. We're not using it so much for the single server login for a variety of reasons, but what we found, what was included within this piece of software was the rostering piece. And we use other tools. PowerSchool has something inherent to it called AutoSend, and we ship out boatloads of information every night using PowerSchool that's picked up by the vendor, and then they do the rostering piece. That's a traditional way of doing things. So, but I think it's going to evolve into where we might use Clever, because we really tested the waters just a little bit last year, more so now, and it appears to be working. And it really is helpful for the systems that we are managing manually. There's a few of them that we have to manually manage changes, and that is a big drain on resources. So this rostering of information is really important, and right now Clever looks like it's optimistic that it's going to help us with that kind of job.
And that extending that to, you mentioned like Office 365 with the OneNote and classroom,
Yes.
OneNote classroom notebooks, where a teacher has to create, or a classroom notebook specific to a group of students.
Yeah, right now we're using, there's a sync process that Aaron Stomp set up for us that him and I worked on that links into PowerSchool. So when that sync is turned on, it does, and that's some of the growing pains we had last year when we were in a beta version with Classroom. That part didn't necessarily, I think Aaron and I took a couple swipes at that before we finally found the right set of, we ended up actually using Parent Portal and through PowerSchool and syncing, and we finally got it to work. And so I'm hoping that piece is past us now, but the rostering is done within PowerSchool now. So that's PowerSchool and Office 365. So that's a good thing.
Excellent.
So I don't know if you have any other questions. I have a few other type examples of things we're working on. Before I leave, I just wanted to maybe talk about a few tips that would help, I think, everybody in dealing with IS in your software. But let me just mention a few other type things of activities that may not be related exactly to a classroom. It's a little bit on the network side. I kind of touched base at where the evolution of different platforms that we have on, where a lot of software now is web-based. So now we have to kind of acquire tools that can kind of manage things. We have our filtering system, and we use that, and that certainly helps us. But the piece of software that we installed this year is a little deeper dive. It's called cybersecurity, and it actually kind of runs through the devices and computers that are on our network and identifies any kind of suspicious downloads or any kind of activity that's kind of pointing outside the district. And we've had 2 kind of hits that we have to follow up on that we're going to do this week. But these are the kind of things, because we're on in a new kind of direction here that we have to look at. So that's kind of an interesting tool that we hope is going to be helpful. Probably the biggest, I know we're going to be replacing our health office system. It's for the nurses to manage their health office. And I have to give credit to Joe Silverelli. We went through this whole process of, trying to find software. We did really a deep dive into some different things. And Darlene found this really interesting piece of software out there that we thought would be good, but we did our due diligence, and, it's a whole other different conversation. But we kind of settled on this web-based software. It's called Health Office Anywhere. But they haven't really come through with the requirements list that we gave them. And Joe is, holding their feet to the fire. I think we're going to eventually do it, but I give her credit for making sure that they're holding to their promise of supplying the functionality that we need. But the biggest intervention, we've been kind of looking at it for a few years, is to replace our business software. Right now, we're using a package called Finance Manager, and it's a client server piece of software. It kind of uses an antiquated piece of technology database. So we looked at a couple options. We thought we settled on something really good. What we did though is we decided, we're not going to be the first player in the game on this software, so we let a couple school districts kind of go out there, and our patience is kind of paying off. We're all a little disappointed, but the three options that we were given and other school districts kind of went after a little stronger than we didn't materialize as expected. So we're kind of redirecting ourselves because it's such an important piece of software. This manages all our financing, payroll, HRO, anything that you can see that's related to a dollar or a person, that's what it runs. And and we really need to upgrade. So we're kind of chomping at the bit, but I think we're doing a good thing by just waiting a bit and being real sure and following our process. And I think it's going to pay off in the end. So that's kind of what I have for, there's some smaller things, but I think I hope that gives you kind of a reflection of some of the stuff that we're working on and how we approach it. I would like to kind of offer a couple things though that I hope will be helpful. When we're talking technology, technology is a wonderful thing, especially when it works. And I was doing the employee orientation, and we were talking with, of course, new employees that have been around a year or less. And the thought that I gave them is to, I try to ask them to take ownership of their technology, make it yours. And just do some things, little small things that can kind of help. Things like just maybe a system to manage your passwords. This kind of single server thing, it's not going to happen tomorrow. We all know there's just tons of passwords, but if you can find a little system, and there's a bunch of them we could talk about, but to try to manage your usernames and your passwords and maybe some cheat sheet notes on things that you don't necessarily do all the time. It can only help you to be more efficient. And I live by these next two things is that, I try to get ahead of important technology tasks that I have to do. And some of the things that maybe a teacher can do is maybe try to get ahead of your gradebook assignments, or try to, figure out your L1s or your F6s or your Y1s, or, all those things that you have to do in your gradebook, kind of get ahead of them. And before you actually, in Q4 and it's June 23rd and you want to get out of there. It's, you try to get ahead of stuff as much as you can. And something that I live by too is I try to, maybe practice or really pay special attention to important things. Like maybe you have a, really big PowerPoint presentation that's going to incorporate sound and, real fancy stuff. And maybe you got parents coming in, or maybe it's just whatever. Maybe you just want to try it the day before just to see if everything's running good. So you buy yourself a little time before you're at your 11th hour. I mean, it's just little things you can kind of do. I learned very early in my career the phrase, I guess, Murphy's Law with technology, and sure enough, it will bite you. I mean, if it can happen, it will. And, there's not other sayings, but those are two things that those three things I kind of live by, and I would hope to kind of help you. And then the other piece, especially this time of year, is and we're scrambling to get things done, and you have problems, whatever it might be, I encourage you to use the Q Center help desk that we have here. It really is the most efficient way to get things done. And, I've been guilty in the past. I get a call, it's my buddy that I play volleyball with, or whatever it might be. Can you reset? Sure, I'll do it for you. But the problem is I may not necessarily have access to that particular system, or it may be a bigger request that involves a couple people, and those kind of requests can have a tendency to get lost or send a lot of people off track. So when you do have an issue or concern, you can put it in Q Center. Helen Joyce does a nice job of rerouting that stuff to all the main players, and usually, stuff gets resolved, I think. The one thing I would ask you, though, is if you do throw something in there, and, I just had an instance, I think it was Thursday or Friday, I was James at LaSalle Prep, did a nice job of doing the Q Center thing, but, something got misrouted or whatever. He gave me a call after the fact, and I was able to get in, and we rerouted things around their way. So if you do throw Q Center in there, and you don't get a response, you can follow up. And certainly if it's something that's critical, things happen, you're getting ready to do something and you got locked out, this stuff happens. But, more general commonplace stuff, if you could kind of use the Q Center, I think that really is the most efficient way to get things done. So those are my couple things that I just wanted to mention that hopefully are helpful.
I think what we're getting and understanding a lot, and I'm sure a lot of teachers appreciate this, is the technology for the teachers in the classroom is their smart board,
Yep.
Power School, their laptops,
Mhm.
et cetera. But the whole district, behind the scenes, or you know, the, the subsystems that are going on with every facet of the school district, from the web page to all of the finance systems, to the warehousing systems, everything. I mean, it's a huge, huge, behind the scenes thing, all to support what goes on in the classroom.
Right.
And that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yes.
Uh, and the copy machines, I mean, all of the telephones, everything really, swiping to get in the door of the schools, and so on. Where we've come in the last, 20 plus years is
Yeah,
just incredible.
and I can tell you the old, kind of an old school thought is how you define technology or information or IT is that if it's plugged in, then call IT. That was kind of the thinking, and
Yeah.
that's kind of
Yeah.
lends itself. And you mentioned something, Raj, that if I have just a couple more minutes, you talked about the classroom technology and things like smart boards and things like a lot of things that are right within the actual classroom itself. And I can tell you, we had we had a great group meet here on the 5th of September. Had all the tech associates came in, our network guys, BOCES network guy, the application group came in, and we started talking about what was going to happen on PD Day 9/6 and start of school. It really was. It was a great meeting. Rick Carella did a fantastic job of outlining the locations that might require some technology assistance. So we put that on a sheet. We allocated people to, on the 5th, go to those classrooms, try to make sure everything's working okay. We talked about the NWA lockdown browser. We really spent some time trying to get geared up and ready to go, because it's such an important thing. I mean, it's the first day of school, or first day the teachers are showing up for school. Then it's the first day kids are coming to school, and you want to start off strong and reasonable, and great plan. And at the end of the 2 hours, we're done eating our bagel and drinking coffee or whatever, and everyone's kind of geared up and let's get out there. It's kind of psyched up. Not the Notre Dame guys running out and hitting the thing in front of the emblem or anything like that, but it really was kind of a great meeting. And at the end of the day, I think things worked out pretty good. But once you, like you said earlier, Roger, once you get out there, once you hit the things, Murphy Laws comes in, all this different stuff kind of happens, and we really prepared and we felt good going on about it. And I think that's part of the reason why it was as successful as it was. And I appreciate the patience of people out there when they realize that the computer's not logging on because it hasn't joined the domain in 2 months. I could go on and on for all the different little things that can cause something to to be paused a little bit. It's going to take a little bit of time with right sizing and all sorts of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, I know the effort was fantastic. I have a lot of respect for the work ethic that everyone in here in the IS group has. They try really hard to get things done, and at the end of the day, I think it all works out.
Well, people are working very hard to make it work out.
Yes,
for sure.
Yep.
You mentioned, getting ahead and keeping these things. One of the big concerns that technology is just ever changing. Newer software, better software, faster devices, etc. New devices that come up on the scene that can help learning in the classroom, and that's one of the things I think what this webinar does, and what Gene and I try to do, bringing stuff to the webinars, keep people aware of what is developing. We have lots of resources, and I'd say daily, Gene, we're looking at new stuff. That impacts the classroom, or may have a positive impact on the classroom. And how many school districts are doing Sunday night webinars, as I reach over and pat ourselves on the back?
No, this is a great forum, and I was excited to join you guys today. And it really is a neat tool, because you just get to share information, you get to hear different perspectives, and it's always a good thing. I participated in the district schools program that they had, and I got to tell you, that was fantastic. I was involved in the candidacy, administrative candidacy program years ago, and you know, I learned a lot from that because I was new to the district then. But the goals program that we went through, I would encourage anyone to do it because you just get to, like tonight, you get to hear people, you get to hear questions, you just get insight on things that you normally wouldn't. And it's a fantastic learning forum. So I'm very glad you do this type of thing, and it can only bring good new information to everybody. So
and that's what it is. It's information, and you know, for what it's worth. We had a question related to your comment a couple minutes ago about the meeting you had on the 5th with the tech associates, and
yes,
about bringing them in before school starts, so the classrooms can be get there before day one.
Right.
And I think, well, you could address that. Go ahead about getting things up to speed.
Yeah, that was a conscious thought to do that, and we're actually looking to go one step further because our summer is. I don't know how I can condense this in a couple minutes, but so let's start with the end of the school year, which is the end of June, and we're busy doing, getting report cards out, closing things up, submitting stuff to New York State. But beginning of July, fireworks are still going on in my neighborhood. We're into it again, and I can just kind of list off the top of my head some of the interventions we have to do. It's the Orleans Niagara Summer School, the Extended Learning Program, the STEM and other camps. These are all the things that require a tremendous amount of networking, right sizing of laptops, wireless connectivity, all sorts of system work, all sorts of setup work. So we're really chugging all the way through July and to the end of August, and that's not including things like imaging 7 elementary schools to be Windows 10, all the application stuff we have to do to roll out the new systems so that graduated kids aren't in there and all the new kids are promoted in the right stuff, and all the rostering that we talked about. So we're hoping next year, because there's so much work going on, that we're hoping next year to have the tech associates, we don't know to what level, but at least have a few of them work through the entire summer, so that so that we can kind of energize ourselves a little bit more, have things a little bit more ready, instead of just having 1 or 2 days to plan for that PD day on the 6th and then the start of school year. We're going to have people around to help for all these programs I kind of talked about, and then also to have classrooms, just more attention to them, more than just the 1 or 2 days before school starts. So it's a conscious thought, and I hope we're able to do it.
So if I'm understanding that right, the tech associates don't come. The tech associates that are the familiar faces in the schools aren't here all summer.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned it. No, yeah, they're 10-month employees.
Okay.
So for tech-based people, we have our people, our 4 tech-based people. We also have BOCES, 3 full-time equivalency BOCES workers. They're here with us, all 12-month employees, and we utilize every hour of everybody trying to manage all this technology. And that's a beautiful thing. We have all this technology and software and infrastructure and bandwidth and all that stuff. But that said, it's got to work, and it's got to be in place, and it's constantly changing. We had laptop carts flying all over the district, and right sizing to make sure they could be applicable to the classroom and to the functions that they needed. And I was tempted to put a GoPro helmet on Matt Adams one day at the high school to see what his day looked like, because they all have a busy day, and they do a good job at what they do. So,
and it's the tech associates who would go into a given classroom and say re-plug in and get smart boards working, and that aspect of it.
Yeah, they're the first line of defense, Raj, and they're kind of designed for kind of that level. Not that they're not capable to do more things, but their primary job is that kind of stuff. Is there a jam in the printer? Is there, maybe I need to switch a connection, or, the first line of defense. And a lot of times they don't have credentials to do much more, but they grow into their job. we have 2 new tech associates today, and I touch base with them daily because I just want them to know that this is not the typical workday at the school district. And this is start of school. It's a lot of chaotic pieces, and to be fair, it's very they don't even know where the bathroom is in those buildings. We had someone mentor them, so it's not like we just throw them in a room somewhere. They do have mentors, but it's a tough assignment to show up because you just don't see outside of a school district. You don't see this kind of technology and how it's used, but they're doing a really good job. They're hard workers, and I think it's going to work out really well.
And the goal is, everything works day one.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
there's Murphy looking at you from around the corner.
Yeah, really.
He's my constant friend, Murphy. He'll never go away. And it's true. It's true in everything. I think the phrase originated from a technology environment, but everyone's doing stuff around the house, and the whatever the thing that could happen that's going to ruin something is going to happen. It's at one point or not, and I think it's just magnified in technology. If your one link box isn't working, guess what? Your computer's not going to work. So it's can be at that level. If you can't log onto the computer, you can't do anything. So there's you really drop down to your lowest common denominator, and when things do work, which I think we do a pretty good job of having most things work at a functional level for sure, it's a great thing. But it's a challenge for sure.
And we hear from people like yourself, and you mentioned a couple of names, Corella and Marcia, and people go to other districts to where they showcase things, and I always seems they come back to Niagara Falls and point out that we're in the front row of a lot of this stuff, certainly with technology and whatnot. We're not behind the curve,
no,
at all.
No.
But like I said, you also don't want to jump on each and every bandwagon that comes along.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure, it's tried and true and the right solution.
Yeah, you have to. I don't think that the bleeding edge of technology. You certainly don't want to be the, but technology, you have to stay up with it. Like you mentioned, and anybody, you have to be conscious of stuff, and that's why we're lucky we have your group. Roger can go out there and find us, suggestions and solutions, because technology is not going to stop for anyone. I remember when I was going to graduate school and we're talking about organizational development and some other things, and the thing that stuck with me was plan change. Change is difficult for anybody. I don't care who you are. Change is tough, but if you can somehow manage it and have it planned, have people buy into it, have people a part of the change process. I think the more you can do that kind of stuff, you can't do it all the time, but the more you can have planned change and integrate technology that makes your job easier, then you got to win for sure. But sometimes it's not as easy to do that way, but we certainly try, and I think that's the best way to tackle technology for sure, and the change that comes with it.
Well, anybody, you're at all familiar with sports. If you've been on the sidelines as a coach, you have a game plan, but all of a sudden the whistle blows. Now we got to make some adjustments.
Right.
Try and maybe we still want to win the game, but we got to go a different way to do that.
Absolutely.
And I think if you have that plan, people, and you go out there and do it, I think you're more receptive to that kind of rework, because, you see what you planned, you see you need to make those adjustments, and hopefully you have some contingencies in your plan to make the changes a little bit, the altercations that you have, or the route that you have to go. Hopefully that makes it a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah, and make it better.
Yes.
Improve on it. That exactly. Like the Bills want to get better every game.
Yep. If that guy was a little taller, or that ball was a little bit more over the side, or he wasn't a rookie or whatever, it might have had a different outcome there. So it's too bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's about it for our questions, but we're welcoming people and remind them again to use the blog, to post a comment or question that comes up, and in the survey as well that they're going to get shortly after.
Raj, there was a couple of questions about credit. For those people who have not been on many webinars, basically what happens, it's very simple. You attend the webinar as you have, and if you get, and when you get that thank you for attending email. Please, again, open and do the survey. And basically, that's all you need to do. What we do is we get a report of people who attended. I send that into the Teacher Resource Center. Demita over there will enter in your names into PDP Premier. I think you get a little notice that you have been given credit for it, and that's how it works. We do, again, we invite you to put a response, a comment on the blog as well. But that's
we're hoping to integrate that a little more, kind of modeling what we're talking about is you can have a classroom blog. So we're going to have the Sunday night webinar blog, and it would function the same way. So please participate.
Sure. Hey, yes. And speaking of participating, one little advertisement. Tuesday afternoon at 3:30 in room 109, we have something called Tech Tuesday. If you have any questions that Raj or I could help you out with, if you're into some notebook software, you want to get a web page on SchoolWires. Mr. Granieri talked about New York Learns. We are in the process of perhaps changing our teacher websites over to SchoolWires. They have been found to be, the teachers that have been doing it have found it very easy and a lot better from what we've seen so far. So we encourage you to do that. Stop by Tuesday, whatever you have. We'll be glad to work with you. It's not a class where we talk for 2 hours. It's you bring your problem in, we'll sit down with you and help you solve them. So
and
other than
not
that,
make it worse. Like my doctor.
You're taking away all the fun, Raj. Well, hey, we want to thank Mr. Granieri for joining us tonight, and we want to thank you also for joining us tonight, and hope you'll consider joining us next Sunday. Do we have a speaker for next Sunday for sure?
I haven't got a confirmation on that, so we'll leave that for put that out in our reminders during the week. But we haven't gotten a confirmation yet.
Yeah, we'll be sending out, and we'll also be starting to talk about some of the programs and some of the things and some of the tools that you can use and ways that you can use technology more efficiently and better in your classroom. So with that, Raj, do you want to stop the recording and we'll say goodnight, I guess. And thanks again, Mr. Granieri.
The blog post is ready to go. Yes, I want to thank Ray for his input and encourage people to join us again next Sunday night. And please, if you have some questions or think of them during the week, you can go to the blog anytime or just
email us.
Actually, use the email.
Sure.
And send them to us. So once again, Ray, thank you very much. We're looking forward to all the great new things, onward and upward, as we say. And we will hopefully see everybody next week.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
and
everyone.
Good night, everybody. And with that, Raj, you want to stop the recording?
I shall do.